Good evening, friends and fans. Welcome back. If you are looking for the most haunted, you found it. Dan Terry, good to see you guys back. Hey, how about that guest last week? Folks, if you didn't see it, you need to go back to YouTube or go back to one of the other channels that carry us and check it out. She was a hoot. It was amazing. But the guest I had this week called in sick, kid, problem with the school, something like that. So I asked my good friend Tim Clifton, who's been a guest here twice, but Tim and I go way back, and him and I have ghost hunted together for many years. And he's going to come in. We're going to be discussing a place that I like to refer to in the most polite sense of all as the Devil's Diner or Hell's Hash House, however you want to say it. Satan Sliders. I could do this all day. But anyway, let me take you back just a little bit, back to 2006. I was just getting back into ghost hunting, and I got a call. I was working on a book, and I've been talking to these people, and I got a call from the Missouri Paranormal Research Society. They don't exist anymore. Now it's called Paranormal Task Force, but they were going into the old Route 66 truck stop. I will tell you a little bit of the history on that with Tim, but for now, it was built in 1927, burned down, rebuilt. It was the only place open to eat 24 hours a day on old Route 66 for decades. And the place has an amazing history. The employees were telling us stories that would curdle your cheese, man. I'm serious. It was amazing. So they invited me to come along with them on this ghost hunt, and I did. And actually, it was the night of my 25th high school reunion, but I left that to go ghost hunt this place, and I was not disappointed. During this whole thing, and we all was having some weird stuff. I had a beautiful EVP that, unfortunately, that computer crashed, but people kept coming through the basement while I was down there. And at one point, they called for a lockdown. Nobody could go anywhere for 30 minutes. And I said to the ghost, now it's just you and me here for the next half hour. And I had an EVP that said, good. God, it was my first EVP was there. And that really just set things off. On the other hand, for those of you who want to know how dangerous or risky ghost hunting is, at that point, I was standing literally shin deep in asbestos insulation, lying on the floor. I'll pay for that one, I'm sure. Anyway, at one point, Sherry and I, my wife Sherry was with me, and we were going upstairs to try that out, hoping there was no insulation up there. And I saw two guys supporting, but it was more support than walking. This huge man, I'll bet he tipped the scales at a good 300 at that stage. Coming down the steps, we were going up the steps. I didn't know that man. I had only seen him that night. He looked me square in the eye and said, Dan, if you go upstairs, be careful. That thing is mean. And it turns out that he had literally been picked up off the floor in front of witnesses and tossed across the room. And that was my first time meeting Tim Clifton. And we have had some amazing, incredible adventures since then. But we are going to talk about the Old Diamonds. That was its original name. Or the Tri-County Truck Stop, or the Devil's Diner. So, Tim, come on in.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
How are you, brother? Well, you was a heavy fella back then, man.
Yes, I was. And saying 300 was kind.
I didn't want to upset you. You're the only guest I got today.
That's all right. It was reality. The truck stop was very special to me because as a child, my dad drugged me there constantly. My grandparents' farm was within 1950s walking distance, which was about 2 miles. Nowadays, we wouldn't consider walking 2 miles to go get biscuits and gravy, but, we did. And the Diamonds had fantastic food. Anytime I'd ever gone there, it was always crowded. It was the place to be in Franklin County. It was situated right on Route 66 or Route 66, whichever part of the country you come from.
And of course, I-44 took the place of Route 66, so now it's on I-44.
Yes, but I-44 pretty much killed it.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, sure.
That and all the hamburger chains that grew up around it. And when
and the fact it was possessed.
Yeah, well, yeah, that had a little bit to do with it. At one time, it was the only place. It wasn't the best. It was the only. So therefore, by default, it was the best.
Well, on that half of the county, after the bars closed, that was the only place to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Sullivan and that was it.
Yeah, and there was a place called the Thunderbird that was similar in. You probably ate there since you grew up in that area.
Oh yeah, But honestly, the other place, Route 66 Route 66. The Devil's Diner was better.
Oh yeah. They had great food. They had a buffet style, where there was always hot food and it was available immediately. You could special order things, but not much.
If you know Chef Ramsay, all the good cooks are from hell.
Yeah. But anyway, a gentleman by the name of Spencer Groff is the one, him and his family opened and built the diner. He had a silent partner whose name I cannot mention because I live close enough to Franklin County. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Supposed to say it's a big name in Franklin County.
Oh, yes, it's a big name. In the business blossomed. At one time, they had a hotel there. They had a car repair shop, a truck repair shop, and some other stuff that maybe wasn't legal going on there. Whether or not the original owners were aware of it, who knows? I would have to think they probably were, but they were too busy running the restaurant. Mm-hmm. But we first went there. I was really excited because I hadn't been in the place for a while and it was still open. And yes, I did have biscuits and gravy while I was there.
Careful with the movement, Tim. You're focusing in and out.
I'm sorry.
I know you're excited. You love that place.
I do. Every time I get a chance to go there, it's exciting. But one of the first things that happened, and unfortunately I could not find the disc, but I was enrolled in photography classes at the local college working on my associate's degree in fine arts photography. And I chose the place as the subject of a photo display. And I got a picture. You've seen it.
Yes.
It's inside the front doors. There's about a 7-foot tall, 3-foot wide thing there, So I knew when we went in there that this place was going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And with any public place, there's been a number of deaths there. One we know of was of a truck driver who had a heart attack or overdose. We don't know for sure, but
one of the owners happened to also own all the media of Franklin
County.
Yes, so there was a lot of reports that just didn't quite make it.
Yes, that's true.
But let's when we got there, the manager took us around, and I believe the place was already scheduled for closing.
Yeah, it was the last week of operation.
Was it? Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was. And while you guys, because I hadn't gotten there yet, but I was told while you guys were there, a metal pitcher of milk lifted up in front of everybody from behind the bar, moved over, and then fell to the floor.
Yes.
Some guy said he was asking his wife or girlfriend, whoever's with him, to hand him the salt, and the salt slid across the table at him.
Yeah, we had a number. Yeah, there was a number of things. The most pronounced one was a complete pot of coffee slid up. There was a breakfast bar area that, 30, 40 foot long?
Oh, at least it was huge.
Yeah, at least. And that pot of coffee just slid right down it and crashed on the floor.
Yeah, I think they knew he was there. They're
Yeah.
showing off. She said her employees, I talked to 2 or 3 that night. And in fact, it was in one of my books, the first Missouri Shadows. We talked about it. And the lady I talked to said she heard her name being called. She had went into a cupboard and put all the canned food up. She come back about half an hour later, and all the cans had the labels torn off.
Yeah. I talked with many of the employees that worked there because a lot of them were my neighbors. And as a matter of fact, one of the farmer employees there is my son-in-law's grandmother. And she's in her upper 80s, sharp as a tack. And she refuses to say anything about the place, except, yep, I worked there.
One employee was telling me he went to go to the basement. When he opened the door, a black shadow flew up the stairs through him, said he got the most incredible chill, and then off, and he wouldn't go in there after that without one person with him.
Well, yeah, and there was an interesting thing. There was well, I'm going to call him a gentleman. I never personally met him, but we call him the Hermit.
I met him because he threw a rock at me down there.
He lived in the basement. After doing some research, we find out he was a Korean War veteran. He went to war, and like, unfortunately, most of our soldiers didn't come back all there. And he lived in the basement. Speculation was he was some sort of relations to the owners. Mm-hmm. And when he was down in the basement, he became extremely territorial and almost feral.
Right.
He marked off his territory with tracts of urine and feces. And when the employees went down there, if they walked into his area, he would attack them.
I know he had a propensity for throwing things. That's why I think I dealt with him.
Yes. And the interesting story is that, and again, this is a story because I was not able to confirm it, but he had come upstairs probably for food and went out into the diner and got into some sort of altercation with some gentlemen who were mob related.
Right.
And he threw a knife at one of them. He didn't hit him. And they chased him out into the woods because at that time it was all woodland out there around it. Chased him out in the woods and nobody ever saw him again.
So he could have been killed, or he could have just caught a bus and headed for Tucson. Or
that's true. Don't know. Not saying, but he was one of the interesting characters there. A lot of the women waitresses talked about being touched, usually their hair caressed or patted on the shoulder, or nothing. Yeah, creepy, yes, but nothing, disgustingly.
Well, I did not. I was in the first and third investigations, but I missed the second one. But I do know there was a reporter from the local paper with Greg and someone else from now Paranormal Task Force, and she even wrote it up. There was an old rusty butcher knife, the blade laying on the floor, kind of half buried in dirt. It was a dirt floor. Mm-hmm. And the handle was rotted off. I remember seeing that knife because I see knives. It's just something that I do in my former line of work. But I saw it. I know it was there. And somehow it ended up flying off the floor and going end over end over her head and into a piece of metal ductwork.
Yes.
Yeah. Hit there and fell in front of the 2 witnesses. So he was down there, and he was really not a nice guy.
Yes, he wasn't.
Let's show some pictures of the place before we move on so people can see what it looked like.
Yeah.
What year would you say that was?
I'm going to say 57, 58. looking at the cars because they're mostly of that era.
Right. Yeah. And there's not even a 60s model that I can see. I
Well,
don't know the cars that well, but
I mean, and that's what you saw when you went there 24 hours a day. There were always people there. It was a very active place.
right.
Lots of energy. And as we found ghost hunting, when you have a lot of energy, you get a lot of activity.
Absolutely.
You know.
And then the truck stop, that was in the, would you say early 2000?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Maybe 2004 or 5, just before it shut down.
Just before it closed, yes.
That's I remember those curtains looking kind of funky on the edge.
Yeah, some of them were falling and they were, all tore up. And the lady who owned the place in its finality really struggled financially. And because of that, the quality of the food dropped, and it was kind of like you just flushed the toilet and everything went down,
Right. Oh, yeah.
But there were a lot of people in Franklin County that, went on their first date there, and there just so many things happened there,
Well, it had been visited during its heyday when it was Route 66 by Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, Al Capone had been there earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So it had a big reputation. Now let's show it today.
Yes.
That's one I took.
Yeah, that's
that
what it
building,
looks.
but yeah, and it is falling apart. It's the stonework in the back is really well. Actually, before I did the last charitable ghost hunt there in 19, they had tuck pointed the rear where it was starting to fall.
Right.
But that's it.
Yeah, everything was boarded up. What windows that weren't boarded up were broken.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of the building, there was quite a few, which would have been to the left of this picture. There was a lot of broken glass, trash, the whole thing, that happens to abandoned buildings. And the building is abandoned. There is some power to the building, but usually at night there's no lights or anything.
There's no lights or anything. There was the last time I was there for the charity ghost hunts. What happened is in 18, I was asked by a library group who had gotten permission to take people in there to do a series of public ghost hunts, and all proceeds went to the Pacific Library.
Mm-hmm.
And the next year I did it twice, and I think Paranormal Task Force had rented it, and they're still doing public ghost hunts there.
Yes.
And folks, if you get the chance, it's worth going. The place is incredible on the inside. It's amazing. And those old wooden 1920s phone booths were still in there.
Yes, they are. They are so cool. They are so cool. Yeah. I love good work.
Yes, it was. So the first time when I met you, I was going upstairs. You were coming downstairs with the help of a couple of really big boys.
Yep.
You told me that something had tossed you around, which they confirmed. Can you tell us that story?
Well, we were tracking down a spirit, and I had gotten very aggressive with the spirit.
You don't do that anymore, though.
Not a whole lot. I'm tired of getting slapped, scratched, punched, thrown. But
you got me bit once. Thanks, by the way.
And at one point, I started quoting scripture at it, and that apparently was the last straw. I was literally picked up off my feet and thrown 5-6 feet up against a wall.
And those walls, what it was, folks, is they had divided up the top part into very small, just room enough for a table and a bed for the truckers to sleep. They could get a shower and take a nap in there.
Yes.
And these rooms were very tiny. And at this stage of the game, the drywall was gone, and it was just 2x4s.
Yes.
That was used for studs.
I was rattled, and a couple people helped me downstairs for me to regain my composure.
Right.
later on, we went back up there. And
Yeah, you came up real quick while I was sitting there. And okay, so to preface this next photo, Sherry and Sherry, my wife, was sitting there. You're sitting there. There was little or no orbs, because I, at that stage, believed orbs was dust and let it go.
Right.
I do not believe that completely anymore, but I did at the time.
Yeah.
You came in, you sat down, and you said there was 3 spirits in the room. One was a woman who was murdered. One was the guy who killed her. One was we called him a toady, a guy who was afraid not to do what this guy said.
Right.
And as you said that,
bathroom, yeah.
And you said she was pregnant, and the baby died, of course, because she was killed. And as you were saying this very thing, I was taking photos. Can we see the first photo of that?
I think we scared Grace out. Oh, there.
Okay, so first off, let me draw the attention to the fact that, yes, you were 300 pounds.
Yes.
And also, that behind you on whoever's watching this to the right was the room you were thrown around in.
Yes.
So this was going on. You was telling me there was the 3 balls of light, or I'm sorry, the 3 spirits. Then I took the next picture while you was talking. Now, I would say dust, like something had kicked on or something because of the amount of it. But there just happened to be 3 huge balls of light. And this is when you were saying it.
Yes.
And then on the floor is a smaller one. Was that the child?
It may have been. I don't know. I know the one was the woman. The one was her murderer. And I believe the other one, I had always believed the other one was the guy who took care of her body.
Okay.
And then went back upstairs and ate his pistol in the bathroom.
Okay. Well, to the viewers left, there's a wall with a door, which will become important in the next part of this conversation.
Yes, it will.
Just want to keep in mind what it looks like. But that was the first good photo we got.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, Race, you can drop that for me, please. After that, while we were sitting up there discussing it, you are really leading this. I'm photographing, and I am not believing any of this because psychic hokum was not my forte.
Right.
And I was very honest about it, which we're still friends, so that's okay. And I've changed, obviously. But while we were there, I'm looking behind, to your right, to the viewer's left, that door, and I'm watching a shadow, and it was human shaped. It was maybe 7 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
There was almost no light up there. The only light was coming from outside.
Yeah.
And that shadow started pacing back and forth.
Yes, it did.
And I believe there was somebody else up there with us. I want to say it was one of Stephen LeChance's kids.
It was Elliot. Yes.
He was leading. He was trying to get something going. And finally, you said, does anyone else see this shadow over here?
Uh-huh.
And I said, I've been watching that shadow for 10 minutes as it paced back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I am not going to be fooled, and I am not going to be tricked.
Mm-hmm.
So the only windows in that place was on the far end. I walked back there and looked to see, because there was a ledge out there,
Yes.
an area where somebody could have been walking in front of the light. The problem was, for that to have been the case, the light going past him had to make a right angle turn to hit that wall. It was literally impossible, but I wasn't ready to give up on it yet.
Yeah. That was when Dan, if he wasn't a true believer, became a true believer.
Oh my God, I did.
That was your watershed, yes.
So I'm standing by the window. Dan, I see your shadow. I see its shadow. And now everyone is watching this shadow. What, we have 8 people up there, I think.
Yeah, and I think they all had their mouths open.
Yeah, the shadow's walking. I think Sherry become a believer. And boy, she was hard to convince. But you said, Dan, I see your shadow, I see its shadow, and you're 2 different people. And I said, well, let's see what happens now. And I blocked it. I stood right in front of the window because I had to believe that window was the key to this whole thing.
Yes.
So I stepped in front of the window and I said, now what are you going to do? And all of a sudden, 8 people in that room, including you, all went at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
And I've got my arms crossed, looking out the window, my back to you all, thinking, my God, something's going to eat me.
Yeah.
I was convinced. And then you said, in the most calm voice, I'll never forget that, your voice was so calm after the way you practically screamed. You said, Dan, it's above you.
Yes.
And it turned out, you said the shadow actually, when I challenged it, raised up and got above me so that it was one shadow.
Yes. And through our investigations there, and I spent a large time at the local newspaper in their morgue digging up article after article after article, but never really found any real good nuggets. And that was when I found out that the people that owned the truck stop, when some negative articles were coming out about it, their solution was they bought the newspaper. And then it was all, flowers and fluff and everything.
Oh, yeah. Best biscuits and gravy in the county.
Yeah. There was a lot that went on there that the local sheriff, I think, just turned a blind eye. At that time, there was 1 deputy for the entire county.
Right. Yes,
and I don't think he had time to deal with the possible drug dealing and alleged prostitution and theft. And he just didn't have time to deal with it.
When they would get a call to that place, by the time he got there from Sullivan or Union or Labadie or Pacific or wherever, it was done, cleaned up, and nobody saw a thing.
Yeah. Just so people understand, Franklin County, I believe, is the 4th largest county in the state of Missouri.
Third.
Okay, third
Yes.
largest. Okay. I wasn't sure if Kansas City was bigger, but Franklin County is a very large county by Midwestern states.
Yes.
When I lived in California, San Bernardino County is almost the size of the state of Missouri. But it is a large county for one.
Well, Franklin County was the size of Rhode Island.
Yeah, that to give folks a.
Yeah.
Not that my desktop's bigger than Rhode Island, but.
Okay, so anyway, after that night, we come back. I went back a 3rd time. That was the first investigation. The 3rd investigation, I was back, had some experiences. It was really cool, but nothing to that extent again. And by then, the place was closed. So we went back the 3rd time, did our thing, and it was years before I got the chance. In fact, it was 2018 when I got the chance to go back again. And of course, in 2018, I was asked I did a lot of charity events for different places. I was asked if I would do this, and I agreed. I know they had been to some other groups who wanted to take half or more of the money. I said, no, you keep the money. It's an evening, a couple of evenings. And I love being there. And several of my close ghost hunting friends came with us and helped out. And we got a lot of amazing, incredible evidence. More to the point, the public who came in was getting the evidence. We had video, we had, K2 readings, rods. I gave people rods and they went crazy on it because it really worked well there. We found a lot of interesting facts. We had a lot of people who used to work there telling us stories about getting their hair pulled, getting shoved going down the steps, cans of food being thrown at them, hearing their names called. There was always something going on. I think we lost Tim.
I'm
There he
back.
is. All
Yeah,
right.
we're experiencing thunder snow right now, and my power just fluctuated.
Gotcha. Well, I was just about to hit when we went back in 2018. Was you there at that time? I think you did.
I
2018,
missed
2019.
one of the 3 investigations. I don't remember why. Probably
Okay.
illness or something. But yeah, you went to
We did 3 or 4 once, and then in 2019 we did 2, and you were there for both of those.
Yes, I was. And the ones in 2019 were fun, but like I always said, there was too many people there to really, have a good investigation. After everybody left, we stayed till 4 a.m.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, with John was there from
John Perkins with MS3.
MS3, you and I. There was a couple other people, but I don't remember.
Well, at one point, and that was in 2019, Mark Farley was there with St. Louis Paranormal Research.
Yeah. And we really had good action with the rods.
Yes, we did. We had some K2 action, but overall, it was a tenth of what we dealt with in 2006.
Well, I don't know how it all works, but I think the demonic forces, and there were demonic forces there.
Yes,
after
that's what you said at the time,
sat for so long, they went to find other prey.
Okay.
They just really didn't show back up. Thank goodness. Nobody in their right mind wants to deal with demonic forces. No.
But some of the folks that I dealt with did deal with the murder, at least someone who claimed to be a murderer.
Yes.
The guy who shot himself in the shower, his spirit showed up. These are people who did not know our stories.
Yes.
Unless they read the book. And we just didn't know. They did not know what we had dealt with, and they were dealing with the same spirits. A lost woman, a woman looking for her child, a guy who said he suicided, and a guy who said he was a murderer.
Yep. And
the guy who had the heart attack or whatever.
Yeah, the truck driver that overdosed or whatever, Mm-hmm. We had on, I don't remember if it was the first or the third, because I think I missed the second investigation.
Now you're going back to 06, or are you talking about 2018?
Back to 06.
Okay.
The spirit of the woman who was murdered when she was pregnant appeared while the thing was open, the restaurant was open, on the steps to a young child.
Yes. I remember that story, and the evidence was still there. I photographed it.
Yes. And she later appeared upstairs in one of those rooms. I coaxed her out.
Okay.
And she appeared, and myself and many other people, saw her lying on the floor. Her throat was very much cut open, and she was just as vindictive as could be. And
I can understand that, but you didn't do it.
It's my belief that she was holding the other spirits. They're primarily her murderer and the guy who facilitated it, who was the manager of the upstairs restaurant. And he's the gentleman, I use the term lightly, who ate his pistol in the shower.
Now that's a turnaround, because usually it's the killer that's holding the spirits of his victims.
And I tried as hard as I can to convince her that she'd be better off just letting it go at this point. And
right.
She wasn't going to have anything to do with that. She just was in utter hatred.
Okay.
and not much you can do with someone who's that way, whether they're dead or alive. But
well, spirits have the same personality after death. So if she's that mean and angry, she's mean and angry. And
not only did she lose her unborn child, but her 6-year-old son disappeared also. And through evidence we uncovered, I believe he ended up in the incinerator as she did.
Okay. I remember she had a kid at the time. We was thinking it got adopted or something, but we couldn't.
No, we never found any evidence of the child. We know his name was William. I'm not going to say the last name because we did find the last name. He was listed as a missing person. Back, this would have been about 62, 63 area.
That was before Route 66. I-44 was built, so Route 66 was still the main road through that area.
Yeah, and there were, there was some other, let's call them inconsistencies. I actually was able to obtain a copy of the deputy's report.
Oh, okay.
It just very vague. This is the kid. This is what he looks like. Last place he was seen, the truck stop. Okay. Mother unknown, father unknown. The deputy just, wrote it up as, well, apparently the kid just decided to walk down to the truck stop, get some biscuits and gravy. He didn't know how the kid got there, or at least he didn't indicate it in his report.
Okay.
All he knows is it was a missing person.
Uh-huh.
And that was filed by the child's grandmother. The grandfather was deceased.
So did the grandmother also file on the kid's mother and that's all it would be.
I never found that. I went through a friend of mine who was a Union police officer. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him about it because he was kind of interested in doing a ghost hunt, maybe, until we all went to the Union Screaming House, and then he decided that ghost hunting wasn't.
I never went in there. I know you never went in there, but that is a topic we need to bring up one day.
Well, I was on the property, and the police showed up. And I'm not going to mention my friend on the Union Police Department because he's still there. I don't want to cause him any trouble. But, he informed us that we were trespassing, which personally I was lied to and told we had permission to be there.
Okay.
Well, we all found out. And the police officer was very nice. And he said, look, just get off the property.
Well, the owner talked to me. She called me once.
Uh-huh.
And she's definitely a couple of gunmen shy of a posse.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, let's getting back to the truck stop, which is just the most incredible place we've been in. In 2018, we ran, if I remember correctly, it was either 3 or 4. I think it was 3 ghost hunts, public ghost hunts.
Yes.
The last one we ran, the last week of October, somebody come in and she introduced herself to me. She goes, I was on the one last week and I want to show you this picture I got.
Yes.
She actually said, we came in, showed the person at the door, and they said, you need to take this to Dan. And she found me in the basement.
Yep.
Which when I'm there, I'm usually in the basement because I want him to throw another rock at me. While she showed me this picture, Race, could you put up the first one?
There we go.
There. Okay. This one was taken moments before the important one, but on the left side of that little, looks like a walkway, and that walkway is only about, 12 inches wide? It's not much.
Enough to put a hand truck.
Those are the old incinerators.
Yes.
And there on the left is a shaft of white light. Yes. Now, that could be a photo anomaly. I wouldn't give it too much normally.
Yeah, Dan, if I remember, there were a number of people that reported seeing that.
Yes. And after that, she took another picture, and it should be popping up here. Now, this one, because when I try to bring it up to show what's there, it's very, very hard to see. But slightly on the left of that big rounded tank, there is what looks to us as a kid.
Right. He's just above whatever that white rectangle is.
He's got looks like a green t-shirt. His head is cocked, and he's one of those kids with the ears that kind of stick out, and one ear is sticking out. Would you show the next one, please, Race? Okay, this is a little farther out. It's a little easier to see, but if you look at the lower circle and the lower section of it, there's a face, dark hair, one ear sticking out, and a t-shirt. And we found some evidence, and we could never find a name. There was a young man hit by a car in the late 60s on Route 40 or Route 66, right outside there. They actually brought him into the restaurant, and he passed away in there before the ambulance got there. We think that's him.
Yes.
And I wish I could kind of point it out to you, but I don't have that ability. But it is at the lower section.
And the bonus, if you're not creeped out enough about that, if you look up on that white pipe, you see hands.
Yes. Yeah, if you look on that, now some people see a face right above his. I would not say that's not a.
I think that's kind of matrixing.
Yeah.
Because that looks like the brick that was back there.
Yeah, there it is, kind of a close up. You can kind of see what looks like hands and maybe a face over that, but I'm not sure about that, except when they stretch it out here on that white PVC pipe on the upper circle, you can kind of see the hands, and there it really does look like something holding on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the basement was in 2018 and 2019 the most active place. It wasn't like it was in 06, but it was active mostly down there.
No, because the upper floor had been completely gutted.
Yes.
We were there, completely gutted. Then the bottom floor, they had done some reconstruction. They put a wall up down the middle of it for whatever reason.
Right.
I think you had said the owner was hoping to find use for the building.
They were floating a lot of ideas, a museum, an auction house. They had several ideas, but somebody went to a very great expense to get all that asbestos out of the basement.
Yes.
And that's not cheap. I'll bet that run over $100,000 just for that part.
Right. Last time I was by there, which was 3-4 weeks ago, the building is showing more evidence of deterioration, especially in the back of the building, and the far west side of the building is really looking bad. I suspect that building's not long for the world.
No, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid it's gone beyond saving, which is a shame. Historically, it's important. Aesthetically, it's a beautiful shaped building.
Yes, it is.
For its time, it was, what would you call it? Not Greek revival, but more into the future. Postmodern. Very much so, for 1933 or whenever it burned.
Yeah, it wasn't Art Deco, but that would have been really cool if it was Art Deco.
Yeah. But the building was amazing. So, and I'm sorry it's going, but I have to be practical. It would take a Trump or a Musk to come in now and put the kind of money into it that it would save.
I would guess it would take several $1 million.
Yeah.
To bring it up to code. The building is definitely, in the basement, there's just wires ran everywhere. No, I don't know whether the electricians were drunk when they did that or they just took the path of resistance.
No, they just, over the years, they kept adding to it. As they needed more, they added to it. And plus,
one of the other interesting things about that building is there's a tunnel that goes out under Highway 66 into another fairly large room that butts up against Highway 44.
Okay, you told me about that. You pointed out the door to me, but of course I wasn't going to crawl into that thing.
Yeah, it's all bricked over now, but it was there, and we never could figure out what. I mean, the place was big enough. I can't imagine they needed it for storage, but I don't know what it was used for. But I mean, this was a tunnel. We went through there. This wasn't a small hole. I mean, you could walk through there and not touch the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a huge square tunnel, and it opened up into a room that was 300 by 300, and it was all underground. And the thing was
there
an
opening to the other end where they could run whiskey, or
if there was, it had been bricked over and covered up. The only thing that was in there was old advertising signs and stuff like that. Old restaurant equipment.
Speaking of that, it's interesting to know down in the basement there was an old wooden freezer.
Yes, there was.
The door was wood. It was paneled inside with real wood, not paneling, real wood.
Yes, Teresa Reevy, the first or the third investigations, had a pretty bad experience, and I've not seen Teresa spooked a lot.
No, she's a tough lady.
But she came out of there and quite clearly stated, "I'm never going back inside there again."
Well, we got some photos of bright orbs upon request inside there. Some of the people said they had a dime thrown at them. Which I've had that happen to me over on the other side of the state, but never there. Right. I had rocks thrown at me. And I think we even got an EVP inside that, because by that time the door had been rigged up where it couldn't latch.
Right. What the significance of that cooler was, don't know. I just firmly believe it was more than a cooler. At some point,
maybe a gateway to hell.
Maybe that's what the gateway was. We could talk for hours about this place.
I challenged a spirit, and it beat me.
Yeah,
that's got to be demonic. That's got to be right from the pits of hell itself.
Right. Well, generally, spirits don't have the power to pick somebody up and throw them.
Right.
It takes something much sinister. To throw objects, we've had objects thrown at us at other places, but never, throwing a butcher knife. It takes a lot of energy.
It's interesting the knife that was thrown did not come close to hitting anyone. The rock that was thrown at me in 2006 missed me by 4 feet.
Yeah.
Thank God, because it hit hard enough that I could hear it hit the concrete behind me.
Yeah, I think it was more of, this is what I can do. Y'all better get out of here.
Okay. Well, that didn't scare me. The knife might have. I won't argue the knife might have done that. But
I remember on the first investigation, Greg Meyer's wife, and her first name, I'm sorry, it escapes me. But I was going down in the basement. I was chasing a spirit, and I started to go down the steps, and she grabbed me and said, "Don't go down there." She was petrified. And of course, me being me, I'm like, don't worry about it. I went down to the first landing, and several people that were up on top were shining flashlights at me, said, "You are completely covered in darkness."
Okay.
That wasn't my experience. Looking back up at them, I could see the flag, but they said, "You're completely." And I remember the first investigation was, I want to say, in late August, early September. It was still
in August. It was our, like I said, our 25th high school reunion, and it was hot.
Yeah, it was hot, and I became ice cold. I felt
Okay.
the temperature change. We experienced that numerous times in that building on just about every investigation. Temperature drops. Was it haunted? Hell yes, that place was haunted.
I'm not denying it. No.
Is it still haunted?
Yes.
Probably.
Well, they had a mysterious fire in an old filing cabinet when PTF was there a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I think it was 2019. It was the same year him and I were both working at the same time at that place.
Yeah. Although most of the time you relate spontaneous fires to poltergeist activities.
It's haunted. There's something there.
Yes. Yeah. Were there poltergeists there? I don't think so. I think they were just plain mean old spirits.
Okay.
They were people who were not treated well in life, and they want to not treat people well in death.
Well, would you agree with me to finish this one up? If folks get the chance to go in there with Paranormal Task Force, who's the only group that's doing it now, what would you say?
Absolutely. Go in, but prepare before. Be prayed up. Have your stamina up. If you're going to go in and do a ghost hunt, get a good night's sleep. Be prepared.
To stay up all night.
Yes, to stay up all night, because that place will suck you in. The last time we were there until 4:00 in the morning, and I had an hour and a half drive home.
Right.
It was, but it was.
Well, in all honesty, we knew this was the last time we would all be together for a while, because I was getting ready to head out for wherever.
North Carolina,
All right. Tim Clifton, you and I have worked together for many years, and once again, you have come back and saved me when I needed a guest. So thanks so much for coming in at the last minute.
Yeah, maybe one time I'll be a regular scheduled guest.
It's coming, I think. It's all right.
Okay. We miss you here. I've not really done any ghost hunting since you left, except with that one group up in Callaway County, and that was a waste of time. We went to a farmhouse that was supposedly haunted, and I think it was more wishful thinking than haunted. It was a vacant,
And how many times did we have that happen? Where someone had all kinds of stories. We get there, and there might have been a residual. And that's it. Nothing.
I don't even think there was a residual there. It was a farmhouse that was built in the 1890s. Nobody had lived there since the 1940s.
Wow.
You talk about a decrepit building. This thing, I was a little nervous going inside this thing.
Yeah.
But I really haven't done much, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I have some issues sometimes with places, and it's not something that I really want to experience.
I understand.
Like with Paranormal Task Force, it was 2 places every week for probably close to a year.
Well, you guys were the premier group back then. Yeah. So, and y'all took me in and taught me a lot. I never joined, but you guys took good care of me, and I always appreciated that from all of y'all.
Yeah.
So,
as a sideline, we had talked about General Harney's mansion. I was by there 4 days ago. The place is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I told you they've done a great job.
It is fantastic, and that makes me feel good. Yeah. Because I got a little bitty tiny spot of it's there because of me.
All right, Tim, I got to go, but thanks again for showing up and helping me out. We'll talk again real soon.
Yeah, my best to Sherry, and hopefully when you get in town, let me know. We'll get together. If nothing else, I'll give you your power supply back.
Sounds good, buddy. Thanks.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Stay warm. Folks, in the last couple minutes, I do want to just hit real quick on a couple of things. For those of you who haven't got it yet, this is the most recent issue of Unex Magazine. And if you're missing my stories in here on the Flatwoods Monster and the West Virginia Bigfoot Museum and the other stories in there, you are missing out. Lee Spiegel's got an article there and some others. You can pick it up. on the unxnetwork.com. Order it. You can even get it digitally, and I think it's like $2 or $3 to get it digitally. Of course, magazines are expensive now, so to order the magazine itself, it's about $13, $14, $15, something to that effect. But the digital one, I use e-readers a lot now, and it's well worth it. You got to check that out. And don't forget, again, on May 13th and 14th, we've got the XCon, Into the Rabbit Hole, with some of the best UFO and ghost people in the country. unxnetwork.com. You can hit that. I believe Ray's had the website at the bottom of this, and pick up conference tickets. Now, I will tell you that a one-day ticket to one of the big UFO conferences down in Arkansas, that's running like $70, $80 a day. And you can do, I think, all 3 days for $150. Our 2-day one is $29 a day. You don't have to worry about buying $5, $6 a gallon gas. You don't have to worry about COVID. You're right there in your own office, or if you've got a smart TV, you're right there at the smart TV watching us talk. Safer, easier, cheaper. And you're going to love it. We got some of the best speakers in the country. So May 13th and 14th, I'll be speaking on the 13th. Check us out. And until next week, you all stay spooked.